Hi everybody, right, I'm going to get straight into this. This is a two-parter on cholesterol. It's really important, basically, that you understand your cholesterol panel because there is so much misleading information out there. When you get your cholesterol results back, or your blood panel, or your lipid profile back from your doctor, it's really important that you can understand what's going on and actually understand that you're not really getting the information that you actually need. As the course of this education goes on and runs into the two-parter, I'm going to show you my recent cholesterol results, and I'm going to talk you through why it is vital that you know this stuff, that you hear this stuff, and you get really, really curious and you put time into doing your own research. Not just if you've got elevated cholesterol at the moment, not just if heart disease runs in your family, but everybody should be curious about this subject. Cardiovascular health, health risks, and actually the general subject of cholesterol and why it's really, really important. Okay, so the first thing is, here we go. Now, a lot of people think that HDL and LDL, for example, is cholesterol. It's actually the little protein boats, and they carry cholesterol, they carry fats. Fats don't work well, if you like, in fluid or liquid, and so it's very, very hard for your body to make use of them without them being carried, without the bloods or the fats being carried in little protein boats that takes them around. And that essentially is what HDL and LDL is: high density lipoprotein, not fat. So they carry the fat around the body. So it starts as a chylomicron. So as soon as you eat, it comes into the body as a chylomicron, and then it's the same, let's call it molecule, the same fat molecule, if you like, becomes VLDL, and then IDL, intermediate density lipoprotein. So VLDL is very low density lipoprotein, intermediate density lipoprotein, low density lipoprotein, and then HDL at the top, high density lipoprotein. But just know at this point that it is the same molecule. It's just going round the body. The body is using some of the fats, and so that the molecule, if you like, gets smaller. Okay? So what we are going to cover now, these slides are taken from Dr. Paul Mason's presentation, which I'm going to show to you just in a second, and it's going to set the tone for this, but I want you just to get this first. So the only thing that we're going to discuss really is from VLDL, very low density lipoprotein, to intermediate density lipoprotein and low density lipoprotein. There's a lot of uncertainties and myths, perhaps, about what LDL actually, about what cholesterol is really, but LDL in particular, because people think it's the bad cholesterol. So let's hold the fort there, and I want you just to watch this little video with me. It's by Dr. Paul Mason. I'll show you it. I'll come back to it in a second, okay? So bear with me. Let me find it.
My name's Dr. Paul Mason, and I'm a doctor from Sydney in Australia. And today I want to take you all on a journey looking at exactly what it is about cholesterol that might be a problem with respect to our health. And I'll tell you straight up, LDL cholesterol is not one of them. Not high LDL anyway. We're going to look at everything from the idea of small dense particles, oxidation rates, and we might even have a look at particle count and lipoprotein little a. And then we're going to finish by touching on statins. And I'm going to include some hopefully quite revelatory data regarding the true side effect rate of statins. So by way of disclosures, I have a website. So I know that's a pretty disappointing disclosure. That I run a metabolic clinic with another fellow Australian doctor, an orthopaedic surgeon by the name of Dron Scher, and aspirationally at least, one day we're going to populate this website with some useful information. So let's begin with the biggie, LDL. LDL is almost uniformly known as bad cholesterol, or at least to anybody with a medical education. And this pejorative nature of the term says it all. People are afraid of LDL. Worried they're just going to drop off their perch because it's high. Now, because of this, there's now more cholesterol-lowering drugs out there than you can poke a stick at. And it seems that every second patient who comes into my door is on a statin drug because they're trying to lower their LDL, which is funny, really, because LDL doesn't really appear to be that bad at all. This systematic review from 2016 looked at 19 cohort studies with over 68,000 participants. And of these 19 studies, 16 of them found an inverse relationship between LDL cholesterol and all-cause mortality. That is, the higher your LDL cholesterol, the lower your all-cause mortality. So last year, a new patient came into my room, and when I saw him, I thought to myself, this guy's an athlete. But this wasn't my sports medicine clinic, this was my metabolic clinic. So I thought, somebody at the front desk has made a mistake, they've booked him into the wrong clinic. So anyway, he gave me this letter. You see, he had recently applied for income protection insurance that required medical testing. And he had failed. So this is him. This photo was taken a few days after he received the letter. He's 48 years old, a regular exerciser, and he also happened to be on a high-fat ketogenic diet. This is what's called a DEXA scan. This is his DEXA scan showing his body composition. The blue areas represent lean tissue, and the red areas represent fat. So I wasn't getting it. Why was this guy considered too much of a medical risk to insure? Well, it was his cholesterol levels. These are his actual test results, the ones the insurer used to make their decision. And here are the US values there. And on the right-hand side, you can see the standard reference ranges which his values were meant to reflect. And based on these reference ranges, his LDL of 6.7 or 259 in US units is where he came unstuck. The insurance company was worried that this high LDL level would cause him to have a heart attack. After all, atherosclerotic plaques are filled with LDL and cholesterol, so high circulating levels must cause it, right? No. This myopic perspective ignores the fact that both LDL and cholesterol are essential for good health. Indeed, they're essential for life, full stop. And LDL itself can also be good, and it can also be bad. And the process of turning good LDL into bad LDL isn't driven by fat in the diet, it's driven by carbohydrate.
Okay, right. So that kind of sets the scene for this. And I'm going to simplify even further than he has. And I'm just going to talk in layman's terms so everybody gets this, because it's important that it's simplified. When it's not, it could be off-putting, it could put you off even wanting to do your own research or wanting to do further reading. So here it is really simply put, okay? So VLDL, IDL, LDL, and then HDL is the same molecule. Now, every single cholesterol molecule in your body has bound round it a protein, let's call it a protein strand, and it's called an ApoB100. And you'll see the squiggly line all the way around. That's intact. Okay, it's not been damaged, if you like. So that LDL at this stage is absolutely fine. So it's called an ApoB100, and each molecule of cholesterol has only one. Okay, so whilst you bear that in mind, when you eat sugar and refined carbohydrates and breads, pasta, cereals, biscuits, cakes, sugary beverages, fruit juices, you get what's called glycation. Now, glycation basically means when fat meets sugar and it becomes sugar-coated, like a toffee apple. The sugar wraps around it, and that's the glycation process. And when that happens, the cholesterol molecule then becomes glycated, and you'll see here that it shrinks a little bit, and oxidation happens. And when oxidation happens in the body, basically it's when, if you could think of rust, when oxygen meets like metal and there's water involved and stuff, it starts to rust. So think of that as an oxidated cholesterol molecule. So we've got glycation, we've got oxidation, so that's really, really damaging. So this molecule is getting smaller, not because the cargo is being dropped off, the fat cargo, and your body's using it, but because of the sugar and the carbohydrate, it's damaging the ApoB100, that little protein windy squiggly line. round each cholesterol molecule. So you'll see here, it's normal, then it gets glycated, and then it becomes oxidised. And you've got free radical damage, you've got oxidised cholesterol molecules bumping around your body, causing all the bother in the world. Oxidation. It's not good, it's really bad, but together, glycated molecules and oxidated molecules is not a good combination. So please bear that in mind. That's the same molecule, okay? So it looks something like this. So that LDL that was once normal and harmless then becomes glycated because of sugar and carbohydrates, not because of good fats, not because of your avocado and your animal fats and your organic eggs and your organic milk. Not because of these, but because of sugar and refined carbohydrates, wheat, oats, healthy whole grains, because of these things, right? So the LDL then becomes glycated LDL, so it's getting smaller, and because sugar has met that fat molecule. Remember when you eat the breads, the pastas, the baked potatoes, remember, the bagels, glycation happens because your blood sugar is elevated, remember? So the glycated LDL then becomes minimally modified, so it's changed shape, it's changed size, if you not shape but size, and then it becomes fully oxidised, so it looks completely different to the LDL that it used to be, and that's when it's damaged. Okay, so at that stage, in fact, let me rewind a little bit. In normal circumstances, your liver takes in the VLDL. That VLDL goes round your body, drops off its cargo, becomes IDL and then LDL, and then goes back to a little blue receptor that sits on the liver and it takes back in the cholesterol. Okay, so and that's normal and that's brilliant. However, what happens if the LDL is not recognised because the ApoB100 has been damaged, it's been glycated, it's been oxidised or oxidated? It goes towards these receptor sites and your liver's like, I don't recognise you. You're going to damage me. You're not getting in here. So this LDL has nowhere to go. And it's small dense now at this stage. It's not big, buoyant, fluffy LDL. It's small dense. What we call pattern B. B for bad. And so it will look eventually something like this. So the VLDL, IDL and LDL making its quite innocent journey out of the liver, round the body, goes back to the liver and actually isn't recognised because the ApoB100 has been damaged and actually does not get back into the liver. And so what happens is it starts to build up. And where does it go? Does that look down? Have you got a belly? Put your hands on it, give it a sugar. That's where it's building up. And it's building up round the liver, fatty liver, could be fat inside the liver, because actually an oxidised, so it's not being glycated, but it could be oxidised, gets in through that receptor on the sneaky, on the sly, and causes oxidative damage in the liver. So you then start to have fatty liver disease. It doesn't have to be alcoholic either. You get alcoholic fatty liver disease and you get non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Both cause scarring of the liver, cirrhosis of the liver, a build-up of scar tissue. So the tissues around your vital organs, or the surrounding vital organ, starts to build up fat, and that fat is small, dense particles. The ones that you hear about, or you don't hear about often enough for my liking. So let's get rid of these and these. So it starts to look like, this is your LDL in the bloodstream. And there's lots of them, small, dense little particles building up in the artery, if you like. What then starts to happen is this. This oxidised little bugger here and glycated LDL particle is scraping past the halite structures in the artery, let's say. And so when the hair-like structures are damaged, it causes the bonds to break and split. And when they break and split, what's obviously going to happen, you've got circulating monocytes and LDL particles actually just swimming about, and actually they can get down these gaps. And when they get down these gaps and they break the endothelial layer, it looks something like this. So these circulating monocytes have fallen in through the gap, and so has the LDL particles. And this is when you start to get a build-up of plaque in the artery. This is what killed my dad. A build-up of plaque in the artery because of alcohol, excessive amounts of alcohol, because of vegetable oils, because of smoking. And that there is what causes the plaque build-up. And when you've got plaque build-up, essentially what happens is the artery used to have space in it, and all of a sudden this space starts to narrow and starts to close. And so there's less room for the blood to pass through. And in time, there's a wee picture here. No, that's a foam cell, that's not the one I was after. In time, it becomes that narrowed that the blood can't pass through enough, and so a clot forms because it's so narrow, and the heart would result in a heart attack, likely, and to the brain would likely cause a stroke. Added to that, we've got scavenger receptors on these foam cells. These foam cells basically take in loads of damaged LDL particles and circulating monocytes, and before long, this is really what causes the damage. These big massive foam cells start to take in all the damage, they get bigger, and so you can understand why then the artery becomes so narrow. And under a microscope, it looks something like this. And this is really a build-up of LDL and foam cells taking in all the damaged cholesterol, and it just starts to get bigger. So really simply put, everyone, that's essentially what happens. So the point that I want to make to you is there is good LDL and there is bad LDL. Now, we've talked about the bad. What about the good? The good LDL is what you started with. It's large, soft, cotton wool-like, soft, fluffy, cotton wool size, big fluffy balls that bounce through the artery and cause no damage and actually have no detrimental effect on cardiovascular health. But when you go to the doctor like I did, or when you get your bloods taken like I did, and you've been eating a ketogenic style diet or a paleo style diet, you've been eating really clean, good quality food, you've minimised sugars, you've minimised refined carbohydrates and crap basically, and you're eating like we should be eating, whole foods, you might elevate your cholesterol, your total cholesterol, but actually what the key thought leaders in the world right now are saying is that total cholesterol value, you might as well chuck it in the bin. Because what you actually need to know is what kind of LDL you've actually got that's pushing the total cholesterol up. And if it's the good LDL, don't even entertain when somebody tries to talk to you about statins. If it's the bad LDL, then you could get to that when you look at your triglycerides and your HDL ratio. So within your cholesterol panel, I don't want to cover mine tonight, but I'm going to just briefly. So you get total cholesterol, you get HDL, you've got your triglycerides, you've got LDL, you've got cholesterol to HDL ratio, and you've got non-HDL cholesterol. So if your total cholesterol is high, somebody might suggest to you, your doctor, for example, might suggest to you that you need to eat healthy whole grains. You need to eat more oats. You might need to eat oats in the morning. You might need to eat low-fat alternatives. So you need to bring your fats down because they think it's fat that's causing this. But actually, Big Pharma have got our doctors basically brainwashed, and it's really hard for doctors to navigate their way through this because it's so heavily influenced by the pharmaceutical industry. But you need to do your own research, you need to listen to this stuff. What you should actually be looking at is where the LDL is coming from. Is it pattern A, which is good, large, buoyant, or is it pattern B, B for bad, small, dense? And really what you should be taking a closer look at is the triglyceride to HDL ratio. That's important, triglyceride to HDL ratio. If that's in the healthy range, it would indicate that the elevated cholesterol is due to that. If that's not in a healthy range, it would indicate that you actually need to take a closer look at your results, at your diet, what you're eating, and talk with someone like me, like the doctor, and really get to the bottom of your results. Because in a lot of cases, if I looked at my cholesterol results, like the gentleman that went for his insurance and got knocked back because his total cholesterol was too high, it's outdated, it's based on a calculation, it's completely skewed. So please bear that in mind if that was you, and many of our clients have been to the doctors and got the same thing because they've cleaned up the diet, they're eating good saturated fat, not bad fats, moderate protein, they've minimised sugar, they've minimised refined carbohydrates and grain in particular. Their blood sugar drops, they can lose all of this body fat, they've cleaned up their act, they've probably got rid of their type 2 diabetes, but yet the total cholesterol, the doctor would say, we need to look at your fats and what you're eating. You need to minimise your fat. Now, this is the information predominantly that people are coming away with when you're looking after yourself. Because doctors, in the main, are misinformed. How scary is that? Now, if you watch Paul Mason and lots of other people that I can introduce you to TED Talks and books and things, they're saying the same thing. But they're just one little voice in amongst the pharmaceutical industry. It's hard. But the videos that I show you have been circulated worldwide. I mean, there's like millions and millions of views on them. So we're not the only people talking about this now, but there's small voices. They're going up against these big companies. It's very, very difficult to change a system when there's money behind it. A big money machine, a big massive money machine. So you need to get curious. It's very, very important. I'm going to share my results with you on another session and really set the tone for actually getting to grips with this. When you get your blood panel taken, your blood lipid panel, you should be able to have a discussion. But what if your doctor doesn't actually know about this stuff? You would never think that that would be the case. And often now it's not, but most of the time it is. And this is scary shit, right? Of course it is. You want your doctor to be able to tell you about triglyceride and HDL ratio and actually if it's good or bad and what they think. Not just your total cholesterol's high, even though your diet is, it's a whole food diet. And you look phenomenal. You've lost however many stone you've lost. You're healthier than you've ever been. You feel better than you've ever been. Your fibromyalgia's gone. Your aches and pains have gone. Your arthritis, your rheumatoid arthritis has fucking vanished. Your brain fog is gone. So, yeah, I hope that's been useful. Please watch the videos that I'll share with you, and I will follow up with a part 2. Okay, take it easy, everybody.